understand. Special children touch our hearts in ways no others can. Reaching out to them to lend a helping hand. What we do at Unicorn, your heart will understand.
Hello, everyone. We hope you're having a fantastic weekend here in South Florida, and we thank you for joining us for another edition of the Unicorn Children's Foundation show, Dare to Dream. It's good to have Sharon Alexander, the Executive Director of the Unicorn Children's Foundation, with us again. Sharon, good to see you, and thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks, Ron. It's great to be here.
And we have some special guests with us on the program today as well. We have Michael Pinmen with us and Charlotte Fudge, and they're going to be talking a little bit later on with some very helpful advice and some very good tips for those of you who are possibly involved in, maybe you have some children who are suffering from learning disabilities, and that's, of course, what the Unicorn Children's Foundation is all about, helping not just the children, but the families and even the professionals involved, because really this whole learning disabilities concept is relatively new. I was thinking about that this morning. You know, when you talk about a lot of medical conditions, a lot of them have been around for many, many years, and the treatment is pretty cut and dried, and doctors know immediately what they need to do, how they need to approach it, what they need to do, what they need to prescribe. But when it comes to learning disabilities, this is a relatively new area, and a lot of professionals who are involved in this still don't really have a real go-to diagnosis or a real go-to treatment. And that's what Unicorn Children's Foundation is all about. It's about helping the children, helping the parents, help the children, and helping the professionals as well. Sharon, tell us first off a little bit about Unicorn Children's Foundation and how it got started.
Well, again, we were started in 1994. Our founder, Dr. Mark Rosenblum, had a son, Sammy, who was 16 months old and not talking. And he, as a medical professional, was alarmed and sought some answers to why this might be happening. Unfortunately, he went from doctor to doctor and had one misdiagnosis after another and was not formally identified until 3 years of age. So they found that they lost many, many months of very valuable therapy. And he felt that with his own medical background, if it was that difficult for him to find an answer, imagine your typical lay parent, he wanted to make sure that they didn't have to go through the same struggles that he went through.
And if that was the inception, when did the Unicorn Children's Foundation actually come into existence?
1994.
And tell us a little bit about, when I sort of touched on it briefly, but what exactly they offer for people who may feel their children are suffering from learning disabilities.
Well, we're involved in several different things. Primarily, we're a fundraising organization. Our funds go to supporting programs and services on behalf of individuals with developmental learning and communication disabilities. Our programs themselves, we have an annual educational conference for parents and professionals to educate them on best practice strategies and to make sure that we're using what the research is telling us. Unfortunately, there's about a 20-year gap between the time that the research is identified in a laboratory to the time that it's applied out in the field, and we really want to make sure that we can close that gap so that we're really utilizing the most recent current strategies that have been shown to be effective. We also have a mobile screening clinic that gets out into the communities where parents can bring their children, take them aboard the bus. It's a really fun room. It's nothing intimidating. It's nothing medical looking in nature. We put them through several different play activities to screen them to see if there might be some concerns that a developmental communication or learning disorder is interfering with their child's progress. We also provide some grant funding out to other organizations, primarily those that might be implementing more or testing out different types of intervention techniques. Just this week, we've found out that at Nova Southeastern University, our endowed chair was finally filled. The Unicorn Children's Foundation endowed chair in learning communication disorders, Dr. Bud Mace, was hired. He's going to be coming down into the community. He's an internationally renowned researcher in the field, and is going to be pumping out some really interesting research.
And tell us a little bit about what the Unicorn Children's Foundation has to offer for professionals.
For professionals, we really are looking to be a clearinghouse, and I think we'll touch on this when we start talking with our guest today. Really working to get them talking to each other and working with each other, more collaboration. we've all found that a more eclectic approach, when you're dealing with multiple disciplines and they're all focused on the same goals, tends to move progress a little faster than if everybody's sort of operating in their own little cocoon.
And the website for people who are interested?
www.unicornchildrensfoundation.org.
And there's a wealth of information on there, as we talked about how the Unicorn Children's Foundation is dedicated to helping not just the children, but the parents and the professionals. There are pages for each one of those groups with information as well. And the phone number
is 888-6-UNICORN.
And you're always looking for volunteers and always happy to accept donations.
Absolutely. People and dig into your wallets. Unfortunately, in South Florida, we're looking at over 85,000 children who are affected currently in the public school systems. This isn't even targeting those who haven't been identified or those who are in private schools. So we've got a lot of kids out there. These kids are our future, and if we don't act now to help them, we're going to have a real big problem on our hands in about 10, 15 years.
And as we mentioned on the program before, the term learning disabilities covers a wide range of different things. And if you could just run down some of the different diagnoses that fall under that heading.
Yeah, the diagnoses that we're looking at are more neurologically based. They don't necessarily we haven't been able to identify a medical explanation for it. Like with Down syndrome, we know that there's chromosomal abnormalities. But, we hear often autism, Asperger's, ADHD, attention deficit disorder, bipolar disorder, dyslexia, dyscalculia. I mean, there's a whole vast array, but essentially, Unicorn's not focused on what the labels are, but more what the deficits are and how do we treat those so that the children can really reach their full potential.
And we have some guests, as we mentioned, and we don't want to forget about you as well. Michael Pinmen and Charlotte Fudge are here with us as well. We'll start with Charlotte. Charlotte, give us a quick thumbnail sketch of how you became involved in the Unicorn Children's Foundation.
Sure. Sharon and I actually met a while back as providers in the field, both providing therapy services to this population in homes and schools and communities. Since then, Sharon has now, as we all know, joined Unicorn, and myself started an organization by the name of Butterfly Effects. We provide in-home, in-school, and community therapy services, speech, occupational, physical, behavior therapy to children and their families.
And Michael Pinmen is with us. Michael, how did you get involved in the Unicorn Children's Foundation?
Well, I mean, the biggest thing for me, I suppose, was I met Sharon through Charlotte, and having the some of the software tools that they both use, and that's really how we got to meet.
And you mentioned software tools, and again, when you have children who suffer from various learning disabilities, there's a lot to keep track of. There's medications, there's treatments, there's modification of your own behavior, and as Sharon was explaining, that's what the two of you, Charlotte and Michael, are involved in when it comes to the Children's Foundation, the Unicorn Children's Foundation. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, no, I think that's the biggest problem that's faced by not just in our particular facet, but also in any medicinal facet, is that you have all these different providers with these silos of information, and how do you get them to share that? I know everyone's had that same frustration level with the medical record. Every single time you have to go to a doctor's office, you're filling out the same information, and your name never changes, and your date of birth never changes, and the fact that you got a bum leg, that also never changes. So what we try to do was give a centralized database and get customized access to providers so that they could add their wealth of knowledge. And so this database around a particular client keeps growing. So this informational base keeps growing, yet everyone has access to it. So the collaboration piece takes part on top of all this growth of information. So, when you start looking at outcomes, at decisions that need to be made, you've got a lot of information that you can draw from, as opposed to everyone that's got their own information in a silo that no one really has access to, even though there's